My healing journey didn't start with a diagnosis. It started with a gut feeling, a knowing in my own body. And I took that feeling and I went looking for answers. One of the most frustrating things was being told that there's nothing wrong with you, when you know that there is. My whole life I've always been told that I'm too sensitive, as if that's a problem.
I get what's going on around me really, really well.
I think I've always been a sensitive person and didn't really understand what sensitive meant.
How is it possible to be too sensitive, too aware, too empathetic, too caring?
It was always a negative thing.
I try to be a truth teller.
The older I got, it seemed like the more I got condemned for that. You know, what's wrong with you?
I just see things as they are and imagine them to be completely different.
If you're sensitive, you're weak. If you're sensitive, it's, oh my God, look out, you know, she's sensitive, and you know, you can't say anything around her.
I actually love my sensitivity and my intuition.
I'm just looking, like, how do I get in there? Like, how do I get my voice heard?
To be strong was what mask you put on, and then at night when you were alone is when you would catch up with yourself on the things that maybe hurt your heart or hurt you during that day and you couldn't express to anyone.
In my personal healing journey, and now as a doctor who primarily works with autoimmune people, I see this sensitive nature as a very autoimmune quality. Our stories are all so similar, and we've often been told that there's something wrong with us, that we're broken. One of the biggest turning points in my healing journey was when I realized that I was a canary and I was living in a coal mine. The metaphor canary in a coal mine comes from the mining industry. It's actually a very dangerous job. And at the turn of the century, when the coal industry was booming, they didn't have the technology to measure the toxins that were down in the mines. So they would put the canary in a cage and take it down into the mines with them. And when the bird stopped singing, worst case, even dropped dead, that's when the miners knew that the environment had changed, took a turn for the worst, and they needed to get out of there. Nobody ever looks at a canary and says, oh, that bird is too sensitive. Or there's something wrong with that bird. The canary has its own gifts. If we can see ourselves as the canaries and understand that our sensitivity is a gift, and know the things that are affecting us adversely will, down the line, affect everyone and everything else. I focus on teaching others to honor this about themselves. We are the sensitive canaries, and the world can be a messy coal mine. If we could reframe autoimmunity as a gift, imagine how much our intuition could contribute to this world.
If I'm going to make that sacrifice, consciously or subconsciously, to be the canary that's in the coal mine, I want you to listen. I want you to hear me, and I want you to make some choices that make it so you all don't just drop dead and die in this ugly mine.
My name is Dr. Natasha Fallahi. I'm a creative chiropractor, and I help people with anxiety and depression find their gifts so they can feel at home in this world. I had never set out to be a doctor. I kind of fell into this path. It was about a decade ago that I hit rock bottom. I was an undergraduate student. I had everything going for me, and on paper it looked like my life was perfect. I was experiencing severe anxiety, severe depression, chronic fatigue, incredible body pain, terrible acne, terrible digestion. My hair was falling out. Anywhere I tried to seek help, whoever I tried to talk to would tell me that I was making stuff up, that it was all in my head. Nobody would really listen, and they wouldn't look at me, and they wouldn't validate what was going on with me. It felt like every time I made a new appointment and I went to a doctor, I had to plead my case. I had to beg them to believe me. It shocked me that doctors thought that I was making this up. I still didn't have the diagnosis of autoimmune disease at the time. I still had no idea what Hashimoto's was. I still didn't know that I was celiac. And it wasn't until I found myself in my first chiropractor's office that I really felt like there was a path of hope. She was the first person who looked at me and said, "Oh my God, this must be so hard. You're operating at 10% of your potential." And that was one of the most powerful things that happened early on in my healing journey. I felt such a sigh of relief that somebody could see me and they could see what was possible for me. It gave me the hope to know that I had the ability to heal. I had the ability to reverse some of the stuff that was happening for me, and I had space to grow into. So at that time in my life, I really lacked the energy and even the will and motivation to do much for myself. If somebody had told me that I needed to meal prep or change the way that I was eating or start doing these movement exercises, I don't know where I would have gotten that energy from. I simply began receiving body work for the first time in my life, and I knew that it was reversing things that I didn't even have a name or a diagnosis for. And I started to feel so much more functional, so much more alive. Within a few weeks, my depression started to lift, my anxiety started to calm down, and I started to notice that I would feel a little bit happier and had a little bit more hope and a little bit more energy when I would receive an adjustment. And from that space, I was able to integrate and move through the world as a more connected person. It was through this process that I saw the power to work with the body and its own wisdom. My body had everything within itself that it needed to heal. It was sort of my touchstone every week to go in, to clear things out, to reconnect with myself. I started to experience these deeper and deeper levels of healing, and I continued that care for years.
My name is Brenda, and I've been coming to Dr. Natasha for approximately 3 years now. And 2 words, life-changing.
My name's Casey, and I came here to Dr. Natasha about 1.5 years ago. I knew that I had a thyroid issue. I came to this place looking, I don't know, for some knowledge, for some community, for some help.
When I met Dr. Natasha, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know which way I was headed.
There had been a series of years where I wasn't feeling as well as I used to. And I used to be a person who was a ski instructor, and I used to be a person who went on long hikes, and I used to be a person who scuba dives.
I had nausea, I had cold sweats, I was freezing, I was hot. I really didn't know which way was up or down.
I knew something was wrong, and then I waited a few more years. And I went to a doctor and I said, you know, my health isn't where I want it to be, and they told me to eat more broccoli. And I said, shut up, I don't need to eat more broccoli. There's something the matter with me. And I got my thyroid tested, and it came back as like a whopping failure. It was just, you know, kaput. Upon taking this magic pill, I thought, okay, great, the graph line's gonna start going up. But that's not what happened. And so, you know, I said, oh, hey, this pill isn't working. And, you know, I'd go back and, oh, it wasn't enough, and up the dose, and then up the dose again. And eventually I got to the highest dose that you could possibly take, and I took all the different variations, and that took 1 year or 2, I don't know, whatever. What that pill did is it took my downward trending line and just kind of flatlined it. And I think that when I came and I found you 1 year ago, I had been flatlined for long enough that I was ready to do something else, and I didn't know what that something else was yet.
The sadness that I had in me, I just felt broken. I was fighting with my body and not knowing what to do with that.
When somebody comes to me for help, the first thing that I do is I listen to them, and I listen to where they're at and what they're needing. Some people are ready to dive into a whole protocol of new lifestyle changes or exercises that they can do or programs that they can implement, and some people are just figuring that out. So it's really important in the process to know where that person is coming to me from and where they want to go. Everybody's healing journey is different, but there's often a progression of healing through the physical body that leads to the biochemical body, the emotional body, and then the bioenergetic body. In my own healing, but also with the work that I do with my patients, the single most powerful tool that I have is the bodywork. I have seen that transform myself and people in ways that they could never even imagine. And I think that we have sort of this disconnect with how powerful and wise our bodies are. We're so much in our head. We've lost a lot of that heart space in our life and that deep intuition, that voice of knowing.
I think that the experience of getting the chiropractic work has been that my body wants to be in the right place and it wants to be healthy and it wants to get there, but it doesn't know how to do that for various reasons. So having that kind of, realignment and guidance week in and week out is really, really healthy and helpful. And I much prefer not being in chronic pain.
The touch of the body, it's a welcoming, and it's almost a clearing of anything that we don't want. It's a clearing of that. And we concentrate on the body and what the body is telling Dr. Natasha and what my body is telling me. And through that correspondence, I've become stronger with the help of Dr. Natasha because my body's stronger. My mind is stronger.
There's both power in knowledge and then there's power in, just kind of releasing. So releasing has taken on the form of committing to regular chiropractic care, and it makes a really big difference. And I'm a person who runs my life on a budget, and I moved chiropractic care into the budget, and I've always had a liking of massages, and I moved that from a luxury item over into a healthcare item and just made that commitment. And so for a year, I just kind of passively let people help my body start to come alive again. I'm like passively involved in my own care, and I was like, it's like passive aggressive. I'm like, but that's too loaded, right? But it is this like passive aggressive thing where you're like, I'm aggressively doing something for myself, but I don't have the strength to do it any way other than being passive about it. It's not like it's too loaded of a term, but there's some term in there that I think you could like add on to passive care that shows that someone's taking initiative and doing something for themselves and getting rewarded for their efforts, even though they're not like able to go join a marathon.
The touch, it's comforting, but not only is the touch comforting, it's healing. It makes me become aware, and then I can sit here and go, okay, well, I need to put my feet on the ground, I need to breathe. All of that is just coming to me now, and it's gotten to be part of me, and that part of me makes me feel good.
I definitely feel like I'm waking up within myself. Realignment work, as the body work, has really kind of just helped me get more in touch with myself and with my own receptors. I'm not flatlined. I'm trending up for the first time, and that is a really exciting place to be.
We are energy beings, and there are 3 ways that energy can get stuck in our body. The first is through physical traumas. The second is biochemical insults. And the third is mental and emotional patterns. Physical insults can be macro, like a big car accident or a fall off of a horse, but they can also be these micro traumas, like sitting at our computer day in and day out, repetitive motion, the things that we do that we don't even realize we're doing to our bodies, our posture, the way we sit when we drive. The biochemical insults, I think, come up most in the autoimmune community with food sensitivities. And people spend a lot of time trying to figure out what they're putting into their body that's causing an inflammatory reaction. And that's an incredibly important path to explore. And beyond that, we have environmental toxins, heavy metals, mold toxicity. Functional medicine does a phenomenal job of finding and addressing these biochemical insults. And finally, our mental and emotional patterns can block energy in our own fields. This could be something that someone else says to us, maybe a driver honks and yells at us on the road, or somebody that we love says something that we take and hold on to. But more powerfully, we can block our own energy by the repetitive thoughts that we have, the limiting self-beliefs. And these are those deeply ingrained beliefs that we have about ourselves, what we're worthy of, what we're capable of. When I found out I was autoimmune, I spent so many years and so much effort trying to feel better. And it wasn't until I finally let go and learned to love myself that I really began to heal.
I think that throughout a process like this, there comes a time when you have to grieve. And you have to allow that space of sadness and grief of where you're at, and you have to let that happen. And so this process isn't all like sunshine and roses. It's sad. It's sad. You didn't mean to go downhill. You didn't mean to flatline. You know, it's sad, and within that grief process comes a certain level of forgiveness. So I am not a person who spends time disliking myself, but there is a sadness that comes, and you can look back and say, I have not liked myself, and that sucks, and that is hard.
I'm working on the shame and the guilt, and all that is pretty much set aside, but it's just that I don't want to hide anymore. I'm tired of hiding because it pretty much ate me from the inside out.
I'll tell you, it comes down to love. Letting people love you and then loving yourself, really hard. Really hard. I don't know why it's so hard. Kind of stupid that it's so hard, but it's really hard.
I often see that people with autoimmune conditions have a really hard time turning the camera around and focusing on themselves. They're able to take care of the world around them, and a lot of that comes from their heightened sense of empathy and caring and understanding. But when it comes to applying that same sense of love and care to themselves, they often freeze.
It turns out it's till the day you die that you have an option to dislike yourself, and you have an option to not love yourself until the day you die. And, you know, I don't like that option for me. I want to love myself. I want to love other people. I want to love myself the way that I am able to love other people. And so this process is something that you have to figure out how to get there.
We all have that inner child, and I believe that it's worthy to take note of her because she is trying to tell you things, and she will give you like, oh my God moments if you allow that to happen.
It comes in kind of in waves, and I think it comes in acceptance of realizing where you're at.
And all of it is just sitting still with yourself and giving yourself recognition, giving yourself love, giving yourself the ability to say, you know what, I may have been put down at a certain time, but I'm not there anymore. I am where I am now.
When you start finding the tools that you need to make that climb, then you can accept the things that have come with the downward trajectory. So, you know, it comes. It says, oh, you know, hey, okay, it's okay that I've been sad in the past, and that actually I can accept that, and I can begin to move forward because I have this like new tool, and then I'm gonna go get a couple more tools, and I don't know what they are, and they're probably gonna be a lot of work, and I'm probably gonna be annoyed that I have to put that kind of effort in, but still, I'm gonna get those tools, and I'm gonna hike up that hill, and it's gonna take a long time because it took me a long time to get to where I'm at now.
It's just picking up that energy and learning how to identify with it if you're not used to something like that. But it's a healing. Touch is healing. Touch is loving.
I felt like oh, this is a lot easier than I would have imagined it would have been.
With the lightest of touch, amazing things can happen. Amazing things can happen.
Maybe you're not strong enough to make the change you need to make. Or maybe you're not strong enough yet. But, you know, hopefully one day you'll get there, and I hope that I can just love you in the meantime. I mean, we're talking real basic. Can you get some decent sleep? Can you get to your chiropractor appointment? Can you go get a massage? Can you eat a healthy breakfast? Okay, maybe that's what you can do today. And maybe that's what you can do tomorrow.
With the support and the foundation that is here, it makes me want to be better to myself than I already am.
You know, and it's a journey, and I'm on it. I found a really caring practitioner. I found a place that understood the journey better than I understood it at the time, and probably still. And I found regular chiropractic care that cleaned, I don't know, my soul up and like helped it get aligned.
I mean, when you come here, you're already beginning to heal. The healing is already started.
I think one of the things that I appreciate is the lack of judgment.
You will come in, you will be received. And there's no judgment placed on you.
I feel not judged. And, you know, we can talk about loving ourselves as much as we want, but there's always a judge and a critic. And, you know, and it's frustrating to be needing something and needing someone. And so I do not feel judged coming here, and I feel like, okay, you're on your journey, and I'm here to meet you when you show up.
Every patient that comes through here gets that love and that attention to them to help them on their journey.
I don't think two people are ever on the exact same path. And when you're needing care, you need someone to meet you where you're at, not where someone else is at, not where they think you need to be at, just where you're at. And that is something that I really appreciate about you, Dr. Natasha.
I come here, I'm safe, I'm cared for. I'm received with openness, and I don't know many places that you can do that time after time after time after time again.
Dr. Natasha brings a calmness to this experience, right? This experience is just maddening. You are upset. You're like, why has this been bestowed upon me? But there's a calmness of coming here and just saying like, okay, where are we at today? And what do we need to do to move forward?
I have a life now. She has given me a life.
There's a lot of people who have gone on this journey and who need to know that there's a journey that they can go on. There's more. There's a lot more. And there's a lot of people who just need to know that there's something they can do or that they can have done for them, and that it is going to help them reconnect with who they are and who they want to be.
On my journey, in order to truly heal, I had to change my mind. I don't mean that I sat down one day and decided to heal. It was a long and difficult process to learn how to think and feel differently about myself and my autoimmunity. When I first discovered that my body was producing antibodies to my own thyroid tissue, I felt a slew of emotions that I didn't know how to process. And then I started to ask, why me? I felt all this fear and shame and anger and sadness and regret, and all of these feelings compounded my current stress and depression. Then I spent years trying to fix it. I worked so hard to take care of my health. by following all of the autoimmune protocol rules and practicing self-care rituals. I drastically changed my diet, eliminated all possible toxins, visited my chiropractor regularly, reduced stress, took long baths, meditated, got massages, rested, exercised, nurtured loving relationships, and slept a lot. By doing all of this, I was getting better, but I wasn't healing. I was still missing one piece. In the dark hollows of my depression, I started keeping a gratitude journal. I would begin with a piece of paper and write, "Today was great because," and I would only list whatever would honestly complete that sentence. Some days, the highlight of my life was as simple as I did all my laundry, or I chose a side salad instead of fries. Eventually, my perspective started to change as I started to look for things to love about myself and my life, if only to write them down in my journal that day. In all honesty, it didn't take very long for this habit to shift the way that I felt about my life. And soon I saw that I was abundant with love, joy, and potential, and I didn't have to change anything except my mind. I no longer saw myself as a cursed, pathetic, unlovable, diseased person with an autoimmune death sentence. Through all the hard work I was doing to get healthier and prevent further autoimmune damage, what I really needed to do was stop focusing on my disease and start loving myself and my life. Don't get me wrong, all the body work, diet changes, supplementation, and relationship work I did was essential. But when I finally learned how to live with these healthy habits and not define myself by my disease, I began to heal. Healing from Hashimoto's is a long but empowering journey. And if you're just starting out on that journey, know that there are tons of tools available for you to heal naturally and holistically. And it's important to look at the physical, biochemical, and mental emotional aspects of your own health. It's not always easy, and I guarantee there will be setbacks along the way. But one day, I hope you can look back on the path you've traveled and see this autoimmune catalyst as a blessing instead of a curse. I hope one day you will see that you are a canary.